All right, here we are again at the Bric Art Medium, and I'm with an extraordinary artist named Tabitha, and she's going to reveal her story, her message, everything about who she is, and she's also part of the Fulton Art Fair youth. What is it? A youth counselor,
Youth coordinator.
coordinator, right, right, and she's going to be talking about that because we got a mission with her. Where she's gonna get most of the youth to come up here to do their interview, to tell their story. But I'm gonna leave all that up to her, because right now I got a lot of questions. But anyway, let me start off with this. So just tell us. You can look in the camera. Tell us your name, who you are, and then let me get to these questions. Got it.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Tabitha Theogene. I've been part of the Fulton Art Fair for about 4 or 5 years now. Was first introduced to the Fulton Art Fair by members of the Dorsey's Art Gallery. Been with Dorsey since 2011, so about 6-7 years now. It's just been a really good journey. Just started. I've been a youth coordinator for a couple of years now, and trying to get more youth, especially in areas like Chelsea and downtown areas where a lot of the youth like to flock to. Trying to get more involved. So yeah, happy to be here.
Okay. Well, we're happy to have you here as well. All right. So let's start with the questions. So that's what 3 words friends and family would use to describe you, Kevin?
Weird is one word. I really love that word, weird. I like being weird, being different. I think that's one thing a lot of my friends and family would use. Another one is creative. I've always had a fascination with like sci-fi and fantasy and mythology and whatnot. So a lot of that kind of helps with creating a lot of the work I do, especially illustration has always been an interest of mine as well. And a third word, I guess, people would say would be outspoken in a way, but not outspoken as if like I'm outspoken. But a lot of things I say are for a lot of people I know seem to want to be heard. So I guess those are 3 words I can say to describe me.
All right. Well, how would you describe yourself?
I would say I'm more of an old soul. I like to think outside the box. I was never really the kid. I always felt like the old lady growing up. I think that's how I would describe myself.
Okay. So what inspired you to wake up every morning?
Drawing new images. There's times I would, not only does it inspire me to wake up, it inspires me to stay up at night as well. There are times I would go to bed at 1 a.m., 2 a.m. working on a sketchbook. It could be a 5x7 sketchbook to 11x14 scratch paper to a 60x60 canvas. Whatever comes to mind, whatever song I hear, whatever conversation I've had with someone, a lot of that inspires me to really push and inspire my work and really push and create. So, yeah.
Okay. Who would you say inspired you?
It's more like how many people inspired me.
Talk about it.
I grew up in a family of artists. I discovered it when I was about like 12, 13 years old that I had a lot of artists in my family. But the first people that actually kind of inspired me were my mother, my sister. My sister was always drawing when we were kids. She used to draw anime and cartoons and superheroes. And my mom was really into, she studied fashion design and interior design in Haiti growing up. And I remember just growing up, she would always redesign the kitchen or redesign the bedroom. She would make all our clothes. She would put new curtains. People would come in and say, hey, I really love your place. I want to do this and that. And it was like the creative flow was just moving all over the place. It wasn't until my grandfather's funeral when he passed when I was about 13 years old. I never met him. That was like the 3rd and final time I've met my grandfather. But it was kind of a blessing in disguise, because when I went to his funeral, that's when I met a lot of other members of my family I didn't really know too well, and I discovered that there were a lot more artists in my family than meets the eye. You know, I've had cousins who were studying fine art, a lot of fine artists, that's one thing, but I've had tattoo artists, web designers. I have a couple of cousins who are trying to really put their name out there. They're in the position that they are. They seem to be up and coming. So it's just part of my history, part of my life. That's just the way it is, and I love it. I've always loved art. It's just growing up, I always assumed animation and cartooning was art, but I was first introduced to Frida Kahlo, and that's when I learned that what real fine art was, and that's when I kind of just drove from there. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like it's all through the family. You inherit this. This is through your genes.
Yeah.
You know, so this is it for you. You know.
I love it. I
There
love
you
it.
go. Okay, what challenges have you struggled with to become an artist?
Finding inspiration, constant inspiration. You know, it's not easy for every artist to be inspired. You know, normally it's every once in a blue moon, but trying to get that constant inspiration, that every minute, every second, has always been a challenge. It's really, fortunately, if you're the type of person where what I usually do is when I'm going to work or any moment that I have to myself, I try to draw. Sometimes, even if I don't know what comes to mind, what image comes to mind, if I see someone with certain features that I want to draw, I would draw it. If I see someone wearing a certain outfit that I really want to use in a strip or an artwork, I would do it. Finding inspiration is that one challenge. You know, artists can tend to get bored easily. A lot of creatives get bored very easily. So it's all about trying to keep up, just kind of keep that coal burning and really get yourself jumping and really, really inspiring yourself and really keeping up with it. And another challenge would be kind of emotions, like one's emotions. With things going on today, with a lot of the controversies, the back and forth, the right, the left, and whatnot, it could really take a toll on a lot of artists because we seem to have a mind wave that's on a bit of a different spectrum than the rest of us. So when it comes to trying to keep it together mentally, emotionally, physically, that's very key for an artist because, you know, a happy life is a long life. So yeah, those are the two challenges I would say.
Well said, well said. All right, how long have you been an artist?
I would say on and off all my life. I've, again, like I said, it started off with just me and my sister drawing, and my mother was always designed our clothes for church. Like, you know, every Sunday church, everybody got to dress up and whatnot. My mom was the over-the-top, had to make outfits within an hour if it's not, if no one else is wearing it. But I've been an artist pretty much all my life. I remember even like coloring books. I used to hate coloring books because I used to see the kids grabbing the blue crayon to color a cat. And for me, if it wasn't anatomically correct, I wasn't going to work with it. But yeah, all my life. It's been around forever. I just started taking it seriously when I was about freshman year in high school, 13 years old. Yeah.
Wow. How many mediums do you work with?
I work with a lot of mediums. I work with watercolor, gouache, ink, collage, mixed media. Recently, I took up scratchboard, which I really, really love. I also took up spray paint, which I really like as well. But those I've always been, but again, watercolor, gouache. Ink was the very first medium I've used for a long time, still use it to today. Watercolor, gouache, collage, that's it.
Okay, it's a lot of mediums. Good. Do you belong to any art organization?
That question is a bit tricky. I don't know if I belong to everyone solidly, but I've always been participated with the Dorsey's Art Gallery for a long, long time. Okay. So I guess, in a way, yes, I am part of an organization. But I'm also part of the Fulton Art Fair as well.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right. Have you had any commissions?
I've had commissions. Luckily, a lot of the commissions I've been getting, a lot of the collectors that I've or clients that I've worked with really like my work and whatnot, and only had like one or two specific details. That's kind of one of the big fears of
Yeah.
artists' commissions.
Yeah.
Is like they have to have like 3 million ideas in one piece, and it's trying to correlate each one is like tricky. But yeah, I've had commissions before, and it's done me really well.
Oh, great. Sounds good. What about your work in private and public places, collections, stuff like that, galleries?
Well, so far many of my pieces have been shown in public places. I guess the only, well, I wouldn't really consider Dorsey Art Gallery a private institution. The way they open their doors to the community is just so upholding and inspiring and whatnot. So I don't think they would. Me personally, I don't consider them private. Even though in a sense they seem a bit of a private institution, like aesthetically, but not spiritually. But yeah, many of the places I've been to are public. I like public events more. It's nice to get people who are outside looking in.
Right.
So yeah, mostly public.
Okay. What about an individual show? Have you had any exhibits?
Recently, I was in a Fulton Art Fair 60th anniversary show at St. Joseph's College. Technically, it wasn't an individual show; it was with other members of the Fulton Art Fair. I don't believe I've had an individual show yet. I'm a little bit nervous about having my own solo show. I know it's pretty exciting, but I feel like I'm not there yet. I still like to consider myself a pupil in the arts, even though I'm at a certain level where my name is starting to kind of click a little bit. I don't have any solo shows yet. Not yet. I'm not there yet.
Okay, this is an extra question because of what you just said. By doing this interview, and once we get to your art and you explain it to them, and you actually talking about your story, you being more exposed now. And this brings that notch up.
Yeah.
A little higher, you know, because people want to see you now. They say, wow, I didn't know this. I didn't know that about you. The more you talk, the more you be exposed, the better your chances is where people want you to do commission. They got to know you. Your name start. You become somebody. Right. You know, soon they hear that name. Oh, did you hear? Where's she going? Because they already know you now. So this is great. This whole platform right here is very, very great for you.
Oh yeah.
And I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
Okay. Tell us about. Well, I don't know. Well, you can still do it anyway. Tell us about Dorsey. How important Dorsey Gallery is to you.
And Dorsey is important to me. I still remember the first time I walked into Dorsey's Art Gallery. At the time, I was living with my aunt and my cousin, and I don't know. This day, I just wanted to take a walk. I was working on a piece, and I just wanted to take a walk, take a break. And that specific neighborhood that I was living at, I didn't really know too well, so it was kind of a good time to take a walk. And as soon as I turned the corner, something told me to turn to my right. And the second I turned to my right, there's Dorsey's Art Gallery. Unfortunately, it was closed that first time, but I was able to come the next month for a second Saturday. And that's when I first met Otto and Mac and Carl and whatnot. And I was a little bit nervous walking in because I didn't really know what to expect. But I was really... Ever since then, first day, I was really happy with coming back to Dorsey's Art Gallery, and I've had shown there. I sold my first piece at Dorsey's Art Gallery.
Congratulations!
Thank you. It was really, really wonderful, and I was a nervous wreck. I was just sitting there like it was at the auction during the Christmas show, and then it was like the very last minute of my piece on the auction floor, and then someone just raised their hand. And I was like, oh, thank God! So. It was wonderful. It was a really great time. It was awesome. So Dorsey's is very important to me.
Excellent. Okay, what do you consider to be the most important in your life of art?
For me, is the most important, I would say, is just keeping an open mind when it comes to art. You know, especially, luckily, life is not always that boring. There's always something that's going on, so it's easy to really get your button pushed and really get you to draw. So just trying to keep an open mind, and with the way the world is today, with things changing and more things are coming out into the light, that's bringing more inspiration, that's bringing more discovery to humanity and whatnot, and that's always really great for a lot of artists. So keeping an open mind and being ready to expect the unexpected is one aspect that I would say is pretty key when it comes to being an artist.
Okay. Now, who are you, Tabitha, and what is your purpose in life?
Well, my name is Tabitha. Honestly, for a long, long time, I've always told myself my purpose in life is to reach a point where I would spend the rest of my life drawing and painting and nothing else. When I tell people that, they automatically assume, oh, you're going to be famous, you're going to be up and da-da-da-da. And, I mean, fame is great, fame is pretty nice, but I'm one of those artists where I have a slight fear of fame, worried that it might change me, it might change my style, my work, my social group, because the people I like that are around me right now inspire me, who be an artist to really push and whatnot. But my main goal is to just draw and continue being an artist and do what I do. It's part of who I am, part of my family, part of my tradition, part of my culture. Granted, I'm fortunate to be of Haitian descent, to be of Caribbean descent, and where there's a lot of art, a lot of color, a lot of inspiration all over the place. And with our history, it just helps. It helps us even more. And really, there's so much within our history that's hidden. So when we discover a lot of these histories, it helps us push. So a lot of these aspects is what kind of are just a lot of these little goals that kind of makes me want to continue being an artist, to learn more about myself, to learn more about my culture, and use these forces to drive myself as an artist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So we came to the end of the questions, but what I need you to do is look directly into that, like you're talking to 3 million and more people, like they right here in front of you. And really talk to them, because you already inspired me. You already inspired other people. You're encouraged by what you're saying about your art, yourself. Very motivated person. And like you said, you're from Haitian descent, so that even when they hear that, you got a lot of people from Haitian descent like to hear that from their own talking. Even if you want to, after you inspire others out there, give them a message, you can say it in your own language as well. I mean, that's up to you to communicate, I mean, I think that would help out, because they hear somebody else, they pick up that language,
Right.
You tell them the same thing in their own language, and what you're doing is inspiring them, to become an artist, to do whatever they need to do, because what you is going through right now. So what words, inspiration, message that you would give to the community? And they're waiting on you.
Well, to the message to the community that I want to give, especially to the youth, because I also work at an art store and whatnot, and and that helps me get more information about products. And I meet a lot of young students who come in, some in college, some kind of doing their own thing. Don't wait to be an artist if you are born an artist. Don't wait until after college to graduate. Don't wait until a certain big part of your life to become something that's always been part of your life. Me personally, when I was in school, I didn't wait until my sophomore year even to jump into galleries and study work and go to museums and whatnot, to exhibit and whatnot. I've felt that art has always been a very difficult field for many people, and it's good to really get your feet dirty real soon, like really jump into the mud without really thinking twice. It's especially now with illustration and animation and cartooning that's coming out and becoming basically lowbrow art becoming the new, competing with highbrow art. Start early. Go for it. Don't think twice about it. Do research on what kind of connects with your work. See who you can connect with, network as soon as possible. Really get your feet out there. Really put the coal in your pants and start running. It's better to start sooner than never or later. You'd be surprised how many you meet. You'd be surprised how many people you've inspired. You'll inspire and will inspire you. Go for it. Don't think twice about it. Really push for it. One great thing about being an artist is taking risks, and just do it. Just take a risk. Just take a risk. Have fun with it. Don't think of it as a work. Think of it as an adventure, and just lose your mind in it. You'll be surprised how more human you become when you really face your fears and taking confidence like a champ. And that's the best I could tell you. I would also say, especially to the Black community, West Indian community, support your neighborhood, support local artists. There's so many of us around, there's so many of us that are giving back to our own neighborhoods, and we would like to have more support from within our own neighborhoods as well. Support as many as you can. Think about as many as you can. Even, you have some old sketchbooks or old art books that you have in your textbooks in your locker or your closet or whatnot, and an artist who might want it. Give it to them. Really show support to the community, especially now with the way things are going for a lot of us. We really need that inspiration 10 times over, more than anything else. So those are the messages I would like to send to you guys. Pour tout le monde à Haïti, pour tout le monde à New York, ça qu'a fait. Mon message m'ta ba ou just chercher un bail pour tout artiste nos familles pour inspiration, tout le monde besoin d'inspiration, pas gen un peu moun noir dans pays ça qui gen un bon tête dans sou yo. Après toute violence qui vini, après tout gourmet qui vini, nous besoin on gens pour qu'on peut-être pour nous qu'on peut-être war, il y a un peu d'artistes dans New York qui besoin d'inspiration, qui besoin d'assistance, il y a un peu de dans toute Amérique qui besoin d'assistance. So n'importe inspiration ou ka bay artistes nos familles dans la ville, bay. So merci.
Great, excellent. So I want to thank you very much for allowing me to interview you.
It was nice to meet you too. Thank you so
we're
much.
Not finished yet.
Oh
we got
no!
Part 2.
Yes.
And part 2 is going to be showing all your art, and then you're going to be letting the viewers out there understand what particular art you're going to have showing them and what this art is all about. So we'll be right back. Give us a second. Tabitha, tell us about this art right here.
So this piece is very special to me. I recently started studying anatomy, human anatomy. That was kind of a venture that was really difficult to really go through. I knew there was going to be a lot of difficulty trying to figure out the human body, and this was just a regular sketch I did where I just wanted to draw faces and draw figures, and I really loved the way it started. It just went from one face to two, and then eyes and ears, and then it just came into this piece. I love this piece so much. It's a very small piece. I like to work in small sizes, but it was just multiple faces. My favorite thing about it is the sense of unity, and they're all looking at one direction, so it's like they're following one another. And yet there are a few that are facing forward, there are a few that's facing that way, but there seems to be some sort of nice, almost golden rule about it, golden circle about it. So that's why it's one of my favorite pieces. It's an untitled piece, so I'm not sure what to call it yet. I think I might have given it a title, but I'm not sure. But so far it's an untitled piece. And it's made from ink as well, brush and ink and markers. So yeah.
Great. This one?
This piece is a mixed media. It's water-soluble ink, collage, and liner markers. I believe there's also chalk in this piece as well. This one, I was shopping at Michael's and I found this little floral stamp, and that's what kind of built up to this piece. I've always been inspired. Like if you notice with this piece, you'll notice that there are 3 stars and 3 pyramids on the bottom. A lot of my work, I try to put the rule of 3 in my work. So, because a lot of cultures that and mythologies and whatnot, the whole rule of 3, even in religion nowadays with Christianity, the Father, the Holy Ghost, and the Son, I try to put the rule of 3 of my work. So that was kind of the inspiration for this piece. I believe this is also an untitled piece. I believe it's called Good Night by no, not Good Night. It's an old piece. I can't remember the name, but it's an untitled piece that I know of. But it's one of my favorites. It's hard to let go of this piece a little bit.
All right. This one right here.
This piece is an acrylic piece. It's done on plywood. It's, I believe, 19 by 24 inches. It's called Open Minded. What's really special about this piece is, again, it has the rule of 3. So I put 3 specific spheres in there. And couple of there are 2 triangles, one pointing up, and with the figure on the bottom here, there's a triangle surrounding her, and it's pointing down, almost as if similar to the Star of David, as was done above, so is below. And that was inspiration for this. Well, more inspiration in this piece is, again, being open-minded and keeping a clear conscience of what's going on in the world, and being able to embrace as much as possible. But yet, even if you don't agree with everything, keeping an open mind and being mature about it is very important, and that's what really inspired for this piece. I really had a lot of fun with this piece, especially with the clouds and whatnot. I just took a bunch of little cups of paint, filled it up with water and paint, and took brushes and just kind of went at it. I really had a lot of fun with this piece. I was kind of heartbroken I finished it sooner than later, but it's one of my favorite pieces, yeah.
And this one right here?
This one is another mixed media of mine. It's spray paint, markers, and acrylic paint. It's simply called Blue Head. This one when I first started playing with stenciling as well. When I started working with spray paint, I'm just getting used to making form with spray paint, but before I had to make my own stencils. And so this piece really kind of pushed me to really learn new mediums and whatnot, especially I love water-based mediums. They're just much easier to work with, much more fun to work with, even though some people are a little bit afraid with certain water-based medias like watercolor and water-soluble inks and whatnot. But this piece really helped me figure out how certain materials work and how they correlate with one another. It's a very small piece. I believe it's 8.5 by 8.5. And yeah, it was just a simple piece. I saw her face and I decided I'm gonna make this weird abstract world around her, and that's what it came to.
Very nice, very nice.
Now this piece is a very dear piece for me. It's called Good Night. The inspiration for this piece is there is a Egyptian myth of a goddess named Goddess Nut, N-U-T-T, and she is seen, her body is usually displayed in many tombs, especially those of pharaohs and royal blood. And there's one myth that describes how sunset and sunrise work, where every morning she gives birth to the sun, and every night she swallows the sun. So I wanted to take that myth and kind of make my own idea of how that would look like, the good night, the sunset portion of the story. So what I did with this piece is I took some watercolor and some ink and started going back and forth with the figure's head, with the goddess and the sun and everything like that. So that way her face looks as though, because technically the goddess Nut, she's a goddess of space and sky. So I wanted to somehow make the sky look like it's it's molding into her form, to make it look as if she's getting ready to swallow the sun, without really, making just this giant woman in blue and everything around her is black or white or whatnot. And that was kind of how. So it was really tricky how to get in that look, but I was very happy it was able to come together. And the woman walking, she's walking away from a river, and if you notice, on the top of her head, she has a basket half full of water, and on the bottom, it's completely empty. So in a way, it's that sense of balance, and something about that one one glass full, one glass empty, like half glass full, half empty. I wanted to put that rule in there as well, since we were talking about sunrise and sunset. You got night and day, black and white, half full, half empty. I wanted to add that portion to it as well. Now this is a scratchboard piece, one of my first scratchboard pieces that I've started working with. This specific piece is called "My Ancestors Are Bothering Me." There's a funny story what came behind it. I was working on a commission piece, and I was living with my mom and my sister at the time, and I was working on this one figure on the bottom. And of course, my sister likes to draw. She's an artist, and she also draws figures. And my mother works with fashion and knows the body type. So I made a couple mistakes on one of my figures, and my mother and my sister just came walking in and noticed right away I made a mistake. It was like, oh, you got to do it this way. You got to do it that way. You got to do it da-da-da. And I love my family, but there are times where, like, being, surrounded by so many artists, there's so many opinions. And most of the times you're going to agree with them, but other times you're going to be like, oh, Mom, guys, I love you, but you got to back away a little bit. So that was the inspiration for this piece. I wanted to create a figure to look like she's happy to be surrounded by people she loves, but at the same time she's just like, I love you guys, but this can't happen anymore. So that was kind of the whole beauty of this piece. If you notice, a lot of the fairies are tugging at her hair, or pointing at her, or just sitting on her, messing with her and whatnot. But it's all out of love. It's all out of fun. It's all out of innocence. And she knows this. You can see in her face she's really happy about it. She's still love her family, but at the same time, it's just, you got to back off a little bit. Let me breathe a little bit. Thank you for the information, but let me breathe a little bit. Sometimes family can be helpful. Sometimes family can be but you just got to love them. It just can't be helped. Now, this is another one of my pieces where again, going with the human figure and chopping it up and creating this really cool abstract piece with it. This piece was done during a comedy show. Well, this piece was made before the comedy show. It was an art show first, and then there was a comedy show that came on later that night. And this was done during a live painting. Was painting this live with just basic brush tip markers. Luckily, they were water soluble, so I was able to manipulate the paint. And again, it was just taking human figures, chopping them up, and making like these really cool abstract piece with it. I noticed that there are more and more artists that are doing that same. I feel like there's a movement going on right now where people are taking the human figure or just taking anatomical figures and creating abstract pieces with them, or abstract-like pieces with them. I think I heard one artist coined it figurative abstract instead of abstract figurative, where instead of taking abstract images to make a figure, you take the figure and tear it apart to create an abstract image. So that's kind of what this piece basically is. That a lot of you'll notice if you were to go further into my portfolios, a lot of my sketches and my watercolor, my pieces have that same aspect. So that's kind of, I've never been a huge fan of abstract, but being able to take something in reality and then making it abstract is something that interests me a lot. So yeah, this is just one of the pieces. This is another abstract figurative abstract piece. This one I call Flesh. It's just the human head slowly descending towards the bottom. There's something ancestral about it. It was not done on purpose. It was done by accident. I started off with one image, and then it just kind of grew into this upside down pyramid that it's almost like a family tree, I guess you could say. That's kind of the beauty of it. This is also this is actually scratch paper, a scratch board and scratch paper. Similar idea where it's ink on top of a canvas and you scratch it off. But there's some that are done on board and there are some that are done on paper. And this specifically was done on paper. I really, really like this piece. I just it was always a challenge trying to find a very fine white marker or a very fine white pen. And I was able to find it with scratchboard without using a pen, instead of just using a needle to scratch away the ink to get really nice fine line details. Because I've worked with big pens and microns and very fine multi-liners. So trying to find a very fine white liner was very difficult, but scratchboard just made it easier. It took years to find it, and everybody I know took it in high school, studied in high school, but yeah, it's a really fun piece. One was actually an old high school project. It's actually one of my favorite ones. I couldn't really let it go or try to get rid of it. It's a digital piece. It's a digital collage actually. We had to. This was for actually 2 classes. I was using this piece to kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone secretly. The first class was a collage piece where it's taking photos and just making a digital collage. That was for 1 class, and the second class was a literature class, and we were studying the book called The Scarlet Letter. And the project was we had to select a letter that would be our scarlet letter. And my scarlet letter was the letter D for a daydreamer, because that was something I always do growing up as a kid, always daydreaming, never really paid attention too much. So that was my scarlet letter, and came with this idea. So I used the letter D in a more Old English style with a lot more curlicues and whatnot, to give it that nice ethereal, like out of mind, out of space look. And I added the Milky Way in the background to kind of add that same thing. And of course the eyes to show, like, with the eyes kind of somewhat rolled up to the back to make it seem like they're daydreaming and whatnot. So a lot of these aspects of like kind of getting out of your mind and going to a new world within your own mind and away from reality and whatnot. So my scarlet letter was Daydreamer, D. Here's my scarlet letter.
Okay.
So this piece is actually my most recent piece. This is a mixed media. It's a combination of ink, charcoal, and chalk. This one, I've always, of course, been a fan of mythology and folk tales and folklore and whatnot. And I'm right now I'm delving deeper into my own culture's mythologies and whatnot. But until I really get the whole full aspect of what, creatures that we've created or what stories that have been made and whatnot, I like to, some once in a blue moon, kind of create my own fantasy. And this is just kind of one of those fantasies I created. You have this very giant ethereal being floating over a planet surrounded by all the stars and constellations and asteroids and whatnot. And it's almost as if she's kind of blessing the world. I think my favorite thing about this piece, it has a bit of a tarot card kind of feel to it. And I've always liked tarot cards, those kind of, speaking to the other world and Ouijas and whatnot. So I try to put those kind of aspects into my work. This one, I believe, is called Ethereal. And it's just a simple ink, ink, chalk, and charcoal. Yeah.
Great.
So this is just a piece I just call a quick sketch face. There is a artist that I follow on Instagram named Sasha, and there's another artist on Fulton Art Fair, he does the same thing where they create artwork simply by using one line.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
And and I was really inspired by that piece, but I wanted to, instead of using just a simple symmetrical line, I've always been a fan of brush and ink, so I wanted to kind of create a line, but not very asymmetrical, abstract line to make his figure, and that's what kind of came out of this piece. Of course, I like to draw a figure, especially women, so I just took my brush pen, my brush marker, and just started making squiggles to create the figure. And luckily, I was on the train, so the train was really bumpy, so it made it drawing that way just made it easier. But that's what kind of inspired me to create that's what just helped this piece, just trying a new format in brush and ink.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the last thing I need you to do, because you did a great, way of telling your story through your art. And you educated a lot of people. You educated me. A lot of viewers out there probably didn't know about certain things that you was doing. You just educated a lot of people. And through your own dialect, through your own heritage, your own language, you know, of Haiti. And that's another great move. So you got a lot of stuff that's going on over here. So if someone want to purchase your art or get back to you, what is their contact information that you can give them? You can look in there because I'm going to put it across anyway.
Right.
But look in there and give them all your contact information if they want to. And you can do it in both languages too if you want to, because you need to, you know.
Yeah.
Okay. Look them directly in there.
If you wish to have a commission or just want to follow me or ask questions about art or materials, if you're a new artist, upcoming artist, using new materials, you can contact me on my Instagram. My Instagram account is TFTHEOGENE. TF Theogene is a way of pronouncing it. You can also contact me through my Facebook, which is Tabitha. You could search me with Tabitha Theogene. Or you can also email me through my Gmail, which is tabitha.theogene@gmail.com. You could always shoot me an email if you want to talk. If any shows that you wish to learn about. I am a big fan of a lot of the art shows that are coming up right now. So you might find me in a few events. If you have any questions, you could always talk to me, and I'll be here to talk. Anything. Any.
Yeah.
Cool.
And the other.
Pour tout le monde qui a besoin de contact moi, on met chercher sur Instagram TFTHEOGENE. Ou met chercher sur Facebook Tabitha Theogene Tabitha Theogene. Ou met chercher sur Gmail, chercher sur tabitha.theogene@gmail.com. Ou me shooter un message pour faire, ou vous besoin d'un tableau, vous besoin d'une question pour mon sœur, n'importe bagaille. So, yeah.
Okay, so again, I want to thank you again for doing this excellent, interview.
Thank you.
And delivering your message. You delivered it very well and made me understand a lot of stuff about you that I wasn't aware of. But you educated people, you're very inspiring. So I want to thank you for coming to my show again, and hopefully we can continue on because you're the one who has the light for the youth, and definitely they will see this and you can inspire them where we can bring some more youth here.
Yes.
To speak about their art, because now they see, what's going on. And that'll be your voice,
yes.
to bring them here. So I think that would be an excellent thing. So
we
thank
need
you again.
More youth, yes.
Definitely.
No problem.
And it's through you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.